Hi Dixons, I'm Natalie Brookshaw, Executive Principal here at Dixons. Today I'm at the Centre for Growth. This episode is the second part of our mini-series on decolonising the curriculum. In our previous episode, Fumi focused on the rationale for decolonising the curriculum. This episode will focus on how we begin the work of decolonisation at a macro level. A necessary starting point for decolonising the curriculum is to explore the concept of Jung's powerful knowledge. Jung describes powerful knowledge as the best truth that can be known and should take students beyond their everyday experiences. Whilst in agreement that powerful knowledge can serve to challenge class-based disadvantage, there is also a strong argument that without careful consideration of who decides which knowledge is powerful, this could simultaneously deepen other forms of inequity. Essentially, if the decisions surrounding which knowledge is deemed powerful are all from the dominant culture, marginalised groups are likely to be omitted. In order to dismantle this structural marginalisation, we need to broaden our understanding of which and whose knowledge is powerful and bring this knowledge into our classrooms. The syllabus needs to be representative of non-dominant cultures. We need to interrogate what has been deemed valuable, by who and why. The national curriculum is already based on these pre-existing ideas of powerful knowledge. We have to be intentional about changing this within our organisations. The current curriculum is mono-ethnic and Eurocentric, and so we must disrupt this in planning. For example, the heroes of the national curriculum are white, based in a white ethnocentric outlook upon human history. We learn little of non-white human endeavour or the academic and intellectual roots that predate European civilization. It is worth noting that the Key Stage 3 curriculum is almost wholly dedicated to British history, despite its aim that students should know and understand significant aspects of the history of the wider world, the nature of ancient civilizations, characteristic features of past non-European societies. Even now, black writers remain a footnote in the taught curriculum. To truly decolonise the curriculum, we must carve space for narratives across the key stages that allow for cultural connections and representation. Inclusion of global narrative alongside British history contributes to a greater sense of belonging and identity in students from different cultures and contributes to how world cultures have influenced Great Britain. We can't expect young people to engage with a curriculum that feels irrelevant and out of step with the world they are growing up in. It is a process that needs to be ongoing and returned to. So what is the solution? Many people think that diversifying the curriculum is the answer. This can involve exposing students to authors from different backgrounds, ensuring the imagery within PowerPoints is representative of different groups, and so on. This is generally a quick fix to ensure that students from a range of backgrounds can see themselves in the curriculum. However, whilst important in terms of increasing representation for ethnic minority students, diversification is not a means to an end. As we know, diverse means different, and often the idea of diversification holds connotations of bringing the other into the norm. For example, where schools introduce diverse poetry, modules, or spotlight individuals in one-off lessons. Unfortunately, this can be counterproductive and can reinforce the very ideas that schools are attempting to challenge. Diverse poetry, for example, suggests that poetry from the dominant culture is usual or the norm, and that poetry from other cultures is out of the norm or unusual. This leads to non-dominant cultures being othered. It is important to stress the difference between equality and equity here as a starting point. The former teaches that everyone is the same. The latter acknowledges different starting points and asks society to create better stepping stones to successful futures. Benny Cara sums this up perfectly in her book, Diversity in Schools. Diversity is having a seat at the table, inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice be heard. Critically, students need to view the truth of the world they live in, enabling them to build schema to know they are citizens of the world and thus allowing them to belong. The work of decolonisation involves questioning why we see the usual as the usual and the norm as the norm. Most of us know the term decolonisation as referring to empire and the process of the coloniser departing from the colonised nation. However, decolonisation can also apply to knowledge. Decolonising knowledge involves interrogating and adapting the established system to acknowledge the teachings and information from groups that have consistently been marginalised and thus ignored. Whereas diversification calls for greater representation, decolonisation calls for reflection and questioning the origins of knowledge production. In our next episode, we will provide examples of this work in practice. Thank you for watching this episode. Please like and subscribe to Open Source and be sure to watch the coming episodes in this series.